Today, we're diving into the fiery kitchens of one of the most intense cooking shows on television, Hell's Kitchen. Yes, under the watchful eye of the legendary Gordon Ramsay, we've seen some incredible culinary creations. But not every dish is a winner. In fact, some are downright disastrous.
Come here, you leave it here. Put that down! What is that? What is that?
In this video, we're diving into the absolute worst dishes ever served on Hell's Kitchen. From raw meats to strange flavor pairings, these culinary disasters have even made Chef Ramsay lose his temper. So get ready for a wild ride through some serious kitchen blunders. Stay tuned until the end, you won't believe some of the dishes that have been sent out. And who knows, you might pick up a few lessons on what to avoid in your own cooking. Let's jump in.
It's hard. I got it.
You see, Hell's Kitchen has seen some of its worst contestants and their most disastrous performances. But Jonathan really takes the cake when it comes to pushing Chef Ramsay's buttons. Just check out the dish he served Chef Ramsay in the very first episode of the season. Is this guy for real? Seeing Chef Ramsay shocked and swearing isn't uncommon, but this dish and its name left Chef Ramsay questioning what on earth he was doing on this show.
Lines about it, well, he's full of shit, man.
Hold on, it gets worse. The pineapple looks like canned.
Jonathan clearly has next-level confidence in his cooking. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so certain that Chef Ramsay, one of the most respected chefs in the world, would appreciate his dish. But then, Chef Ramsay takes a closer look and picks out the oddest element.
Canned?
Yes.
You open a can of pineapple.
And now, for the most entertaining part, when Chef Ramsay picks up a piece of pineapple, he's absolutely stunned. Adding pineapple to a savory dish isn't unheard of in American cuisine, but Jonathan has taken it to another level with this twist.
You open a can of pineapple and you stick it on top of a chicken.
That's right, Jonathan didn't even bother to cut his own pineapple. He just plucked it straight out of a can. In a kitchen where everyone is fighting to become the next top chef, this kind of shortcut is completely unacceptable. When Chef Ramsay tries to address this major issue, Jonathan, surprisingly, responds with confidence. Big mistake. Chef Ramsay is definitely going to give him a piece of his mind. How could a contestant even look Chef Ramsay in the eye and say that, especially in the high-pressure environment of Hell's Kitchen?
45 minutes? Limited time.
You can literally see Chef Ramsay slowly losing his cool with Jonathan, which isn't surprising given that Chef Ramsay is a professional chef trying to get the best out of these amateurs. Jonathan is about to receive some of the harshest criticism of his life. Up to this point, Jonathan was brimming with confidence, but as Chef Ramsay starts in on him, reality sets in, and all that pride is stripped away in seconds. What Chef Ramsay says next marks the end of Jonathan's journey on the show and the end of his dreams of becoming a top chef.
You're so full of shit, even your eyes are brown. Come in here and serve me a canned fucking pineapple. You can fuck off now.
Finally, Jonathan faces reality and realizes that none of his antics are going to fly with the notorious Chef Ramsay. The harsh truth hit him like a ton of bricks. Luckily for Jonathan, he managed to stick around on the show despite getting on Chef Ramsay's bad side. This was a close call, and Jonathan will likely never make such a mistake again in his career. Chef Ramsay made one thing crystal clear to Jonathan.
It's an absolute freaking mess. That's what pissed me off more than anything.
But you know what? What happened with this next contestant was even worse. In season 13 of Hell's Kitchen, Jennifer served up one of the strangest dishes ever seen on the show. You won't believe your eyes or Jennifer's unshakable confidence in her creation. This dish is easily one of the worst ever served in Hell's Kitchen.
I visualize my dish, and I'm usually spot on, so...
Jennifer is known for her over-the-top enthusiasm when it comes to cooking, and her pride clearly got the best of her this time. Listening to her, you'd think she had everything under control, but this time, she was way off the mark.
I'm the complete opposite of Ro. I'm just using the heads.
Jennifer had a major rivalry with another contestant, Ro, and their tension started early in the season.
I'm gonna go with the spot front. The heads off, because my favorite part is sucking the head out.
The two were constantly at each other's throats and couldn't work together at all. In this episode, things were especially tense because Ro had narrowly avoided elimination in the previous round, and Jennifer was itching to find a reason to throw more shade her way. Throughout the episode, Jennifer kept insisting on using the head of a prawn, convinced that it was the best part because, in her opinion, the highlight of eating prawns was sucking the head. Her sense of what people enjoy was definitely unusual.
Refined and elegant. This is what I'm thinking, just using the heads of the spot prawns.
Ro, knowing her time on the show might be coming to an end soon, tried to ease the tension and even suggested that using the prawn head was a bad idea, but Jennifer refused to back down. It looked like her stubbornness was about to backfire.
Player Ro would have been like, absolutely not, don't put that head on a plate.
In the end, Ro decided not to interfere. After all, what good would it do her? Jennifer continued to create her sophisticated dish and actually served the prawn head in the amuse-bouche challenge. Things got interesting when the team had to drop one of their 4 dishes because the other team only had 3 members. Everyone's attention turned to Jennifer's dish and they almost voted to cut it. Sterling wasn't feeling confident in this round and made it clear that he didn't want his dish up for judging, which meant Jennifer's dish had to go forward, much to the team's dismay.
How does it taste?
It tastes 100. I mean, it tastes good.
Chef Ramsay was puzzled by Sterling's lack of confidence and asked why he thought his dish wasn't worthy of being judged. Chef Ramsay was stunned by Sterling's answer. Finally, it was Jennifer's turn to present her dish, and the special guest judge was shocked by the awful creation placed in front of her.
Oh my gosh.
The other contestants couldn't resist making jokes, and Jennifer was definitely humbled by the experience.
Jennifer, who the hell are you hanging out with?
All that overconfidence had certainly backfired, but wow, that dish was truly disgusting.
This might be off-putting to some people.
Sucking on a head.
Next up on the list is a tortellini dish, and just hearing the name, you'd think, how could anyone mess this up? But believe it or not, one chef managed to botch it in the worst way imaginable, turning what should have been a simple and elegant dish into a culinary disaster.
Tortellini, what's inside the filling?
It's just a cheese. It's a packaged tortellini.
The chef in question, Mike, made a critical mistake that left everyone, including Chef Ramsay, utterly speechless. Chef Ramsay has always been clear about his disdain for packaged food, especially in a competition where fresh ingredients and culinary skill are supposed to shine. But Mike, either out of sheer ignorance or arrogance, presented Chef Ramsay with a dish he claimed was made with fresh packaged tortellini. The phrase itself was enough to confuse and frustrate Chef Ramsay. What did Mike even mean by fresh packaged? The whole concept was contradictory and made no sense in a kitchen where freshness is paramount.
Packaged, fresh tortellini.
That's how it's sold, chef.
But it didn't stop there. Mike then had the audacity to explain to Chef Ramsay that this is exactly how the tortellini was sold.
Fresh tortellini.
That's how it's sold, chef.
When you use fresh tomatoes.
They were canned tomatoes.
Was this guy serious? Did he not realize that he was serving this dish in front of a live audience, and that his every move was being scrutinized by one of the world's most demanding chefs? The audacity was staggering. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, Mike followed up with an even more outrageous statement that left everyone in shock. The reaction from the crowd said it all. Mike had made a colossal mistake. It's hard to imagine anyone in their right mind walking into Hell's Kitchen and thinking it would be okay to serve Chef Ramsay pre-made food, let alone something as basic as tortellini.
Come on, that was a joke.
The expectation in Hell's Kitchen is that contestants will prepare everything from scratch, showcasing their culinary expertise and creativity. But here was Mike, essentially reheating prepackaged food and presenting it as if it were a genuine culinary creation. It was a move that could only be described as foolish and lazy. Even the other contestants were taken aback by Mike's actions. They were in disbelief that someone would be so brazen as to take pre-made food, heat it up, and serve it as if it were a dish worthy of Chef Ramsay's approval. And to top it all off, Mike openly admitted that the tortellini was packaged, as if that somehow justified his lack of effort. It was a moment of utter disbelief for everyone involved. When it came time for Chef Ramsay to judge, it was no surprise that he awarded the point to the female contestant, giving the women's team the victory in that round. But what happened next was the real twist. Mike was not happy at all with Chef Ramsay's decision and decided to retaliate with a comment that showed just how out of touch he was with the situation.
It's not like it's packaged dog food. Fuck it, that's bullshit, bro.
Mike's decision to lash out at Chef Ramsay was a clear sign that he was looking for trouble. But in Hell's Kitchen, challenging Chef Ramsay after making such a grave mistake is a surefire way to seal your fate.
Come here.
Chef Ramsay is known for his high standards, especially when it comes to subpar food. Mike's disrespectful comment only fueled Chef Ramsay's anger, and what followed was a verbal lashing that Mike undoubtedly had coming.
Yeah, okay. You got anything to say to me? Say it to my face.
Chef Ramsay, who had been having a bit of fun just moments before, quickly shifted into serious mode, and Mike knew that he was in deep trouble. The look on Chef Ramsay's face made it clear that there was no room for excuses or backtalk in his kitchen. Mike, who had been so confident just minutes earlier, now found himself on the receiving end of Chef Ramsay's wrath.
Say it to my face, not my back.
You got it.
And fuck off.
Without hesitation, Chef Ramsay gave Mike a taste of his own medicine, making it abundantly clear that in Hell's Kitchen, there is only one boss, and that's Chef Ramsay. Mike's actions and attitude had earned him a place among the worst contestants in the show's history. Serving prepackaged food and then trying to justify it was a move that was not only foolish, but also deeply disrespectful to the integrity of the competition. In the end, Mike's experience serves as a cautionary tale for anyone who thinks they can take shortcuts in Hell's Kitchen. Chef Ramsay's standards are high, and for a good reason. This is a competition where the best of the best are supposed to shine. Mike's blunder is a reminder that in Hell's Kitchen, there's no room for anything less than excellence, and anyone who thinks otherwise will quickly find themselves in hot water. And this brings us to the next example on the list. We often see some of the worst dishes on Hell's Kitchen as the season progresses, but in Antonia's case, she managed to get herself eliminated in the very first episode with her disastrous dish.
What is it?
It's a Mardi Gras gumbo.
Oh, God.
Just one look at her creation and hearing Chef Ramsay's reaction was was enough to make it clear this dish was utterly revolting. What on earth was Antonia thinking, kicking off the competition with something so unappealing? Despite Chef Ramsay's immediate disgust, Antonia remained unfazed. She was confident that once Chef Ramsay tasted her dish, it would blow him away. But we all know what's coming next.
Every time I make my gumbo, it always gets eaten, and everybody loves it.
In a first for the entire Hell's Kitchen series, Chef Ramsay's reaction to Antonia's Mardi Gras gumbo was unprecedented. And never before had Chef Ramsay reacted so violently to a dish, actually spitting it out in sheer disgust. The dish must have been truly awful for Chef Ramsay to be so physically repulsed, left wondering how anyone could cook something so terrible.
Excuse me.
Antonia was left speechless by Chef Ramsay's reaction, but it was Chef Ramsay who was genuinely shocked this time. He couldn't even comprehend what had been served to him, as Antonia managed to offend even his refined palate to its core.
Have you tasted that?
No, I didn't get a chance to taste it, Chef.
When Chef Ramsay questioned why she hadn't tasted the dish herself, Antonia complained about the limited time she had to prepare it. She apologized, but Chef Ramsay was so taken aback that an apology simply wasn't enough.
I'm sorry it wasn't up to par.
Up to par. It's unedible.
Antonia, clearly stung by Chef Ramsay's harsh critique, started to change her attitude, still holding on to the belief that her gumbo was a top-class dish that could impress anyone brave enough to try it. What Chef Ramsay did next was something he had never done before, and it was perhaps the most humiliating moment of all. He passed Antonia's dish around to the other contestants, asking them to taste it, a move that was nothing short of insulting in the world of Hell's Kitchen. Having your dish judged by your peers in such a manner is the ultimate embarrassment. The other contestants were stunned by how awful the dish was, and they didn't hold back in their comments. The brutal honesty from her fellow competitors was a clear sign that Antonia's dish was a complete failure. But the situation got even worse when Chef Ramsay asked another contestant to voice their opinion on the dish, and following their harsh criticism, Chef Ramsay took things even further, solidifying Antonia's place in Hell's Kitchen history for all the wrong reasons. Chef Ramsay had never criticized the dish so harshly on any other platform.
That tasting of
A big bowl of mud.
Antonia clearly had a misguided notion of what Hell's Kitchen was all about, and after receiving such a scathing critique in the very first round, it seemed unlikely that she would be cooking for anyone in public anytime soon. Without a doubt, this was one of the worst dishes ever to be served on Hell's Kitchen.
Oh my God almighty.
Oh boy, she was a disaster.
a restaurant, put one table in there. Any more than that, you'd be fucked.
In the signature dish challenge, Maribel stepped up as the 5th contestant to have her dish evaluated by Chef Ramsay. She offered up her Argentine plantain soup, which Chef Ramsay didn't take kindly to. In fact, he spat it out.
I'm so sorry.
But, well, that wasn't the end of her torment. Maribel felt embarrassed but brushed it off by thinking Chef Ramsay couldn't handle the spices. During the perfect steak cut challenge, Maribel was the last one from the red team to have her cuts judged.
Holy fuck.
Only 2 of Maribel's.
But guess what? She managed to get only 2 approved. And then, in the relay challenge, she was the 3rd member of her team to take a turn. When her first 15-second relay started, Rachel forgot to mention the 3rd dish was tortellini. With no option left, Maribel only worked on the chicken and salmon. Although she tried to figure out the 3rd dish on her own, she couldn't.
Oh my God, I don't know what that third thing is, and I'm trying to figure it out.
Sometime later, during the final relay, she also forgot to tell Sarah that the 3rd entree was tortellini. After seeing the blue team present 3 dishes compared to their 2, it wasn't hard to see that she felt terrible for missing the 3rd item.
That's the only thing that was running through my head, how badly I screwed up the 3rd item was, and I was like, what did I lose?
During the 3rd dinner service, Maribel was assigned to the meat station. 2 hours in, the red team had sent out a good number of entrees, with lamb Wellingtons being the crowd favorite. This put her under extra pressure. When she announced having only 6 Wellingtons ready while 8 were needed, Heather wasn't pleased. She had to explain the situation to Chef Ramsay, who suggested making more from scratch.
Fucking useless.
I love you too, man.
Jean-Philippe then informed Chef Ramsay that one of the red tables was on the verge of leaving. Chef Ramsay conveyed this to the women, and she said she needed 7 minutes, to which the table hesitantly agreed. She then sent up Wellingtons that were undercooked when they were supposed to be rare, prompting Chef Ramsay to send them back to the oven. After enduring several rounds of yelling, she began to tune Chef Ramsay out, while the table grew increasingly impatient. Eventually, a lady from the nearly walking out table came to the kitchen, but she wasn't about to let her get upset. She assured them her Wellington would be ready in 45 seconds, starting a countdown. Unfortunately, the Wellingtons she brought out were still undercooked. And what do you think the customers did? Well, of course they left.
Oh, come on. It's the only tab we've been doing, Maribel. Christ.
Sadly, Chef Ramsay was quick to notice this. And nope, he wasn't about to let it slide. In his very next breath, he accused her of giving up. But he wasn't done yet. The next thing you know, he decided to shut down both kitchens.
Everything off, yeah?
During the next dinner service, Maribel was manning the garnish station. Just as the red team was about to finish their first round of entrees, her mashed potatoes ended up overcooked and it was a sticky mess.
Last thing in this country to eat, I'm fucking starved.
But her performance continued to hit a new low with every service. In the fifth service, her plate of foie gras came back for having hair on it, which reflected badly on her quality control.
Dude, my hair's tied up. That's straight. I have curly hair. Thank you very much. Philippe, why not ask him? Make him put a hair in it.
Excuse me.
During the sixth dinner service, Maribel was handling the garnish station. A lukewarm salmon dish was sent back because of Maribel, prompting Chef Ramsay to express disbelief that the first thing she had a hand in turned out poorly.
I can't believe the first thing you touched this evening in service.
And, well, that was the last straw for him. Maribel was eliminated that episode, and, well, I'm sure none of us are surprised.
Clearly can't lead a section, let alone a kitchen.
But here comes the juicy part. In her exit interview, Maribel admitted that her struggle to fit in with Sarah and Virginia was her downfall. She expressed that her husband and daughter would be proud of her for staying true to herself throughout the competition.
Themselves. I'm here trying to work as a team. I think that was my weakness. My husband will see that and he'll be proud of me, and my daughter will.
Well, what can I say but good for you? But you know what? In the high-stakes world of culinary competitions, few moments are as defining as the presentation of a contestant's signature dish. It's a pivotal occasion where chefs strive to showcase their skills, creativity, and culinary philosophy. Yet, not every dish is destined for glory, as evidenced by one particularly disastrous presentation that has become infamous in the annals of cooking shows.
Kareem.
Choline.
Kareem.
Choline.
The contestant, brimming with confidence, approached the judges with a dish she believed was a masterpiece. A combination of chicken fat, Yukon Gold mashed potatoes, and white truffle cream gravy.
It is a chicken fat ribeye with Yukon Gold mash and white truffle cream gravy.
On paper, it may have sounded like a luxurious creation, but the reality was far from it. The dish's visual presentation alone was enough to raise eyebrows, greasy chicken fat pooled around the mashed potatoes, and the truffle cream gravy appeared heavy and unrefined. What was meant to be an indulgent, sophisticated dish looked more like a culinary catastrophe. Undeterred by the visual shortcomings of her dish, the contestant beamed with pride, seemingly unaware of the horror she had set before the judges. Her unwavering confidence bordered on delusion as she insisted that the recipe was a special one handed down from her mother.
Chef Ramsay is gonna love it because it's freaking delicious. It's like an orgasm in your mouth. Come on.
This claim was met with puzzled stares, particularly when it was revealed that she had inexplicably added sugar to the mashed potatoes, a move that only deepened the judges' confusion and concern. As Gordon Chef Ramsay, the culinary expert and arbiter of taste, prepared to sample the dish, the tension in the room was palpable. Everyone hoped, perhaps against reason, that the taste would redeem the dish's appearance.
Who in their right mind would put sugar in mashed potatoes?
But the reality was harsh. Chef Ramsay's reaction was immediate and unforgiving. He grimaced as he tasted the dish, and without hesitation, he spat out the offending morsel. His disgust was evident, leaving no doubt about his assessment. Chef Ramsay's refusal to eat more than a single bite was a powerful statement about the importance of culinary integrity. For him, and for any serious chef, excellence is non-negotiable.
I don't mean to laugh.
In the aftermath, the contestant was left to confront the stark reality of her failure. It was a humbling moment, a reminder that in the pursuit of culinary excellence, there is no substitute for skill, judgment, and attention to detail. The episode served as a cautionary tale, not just for the contestant, but for all who watched it. A vivid example of how quickly things can go wrong in the kitchen when confidence overshadows capability.
Just from a jar.
Ultimately, this culinary debacle highlighted a fundamental truth. In the world of haute cuisine, there is no room for arrogance. Every dish is a test of a chef's abilities, and the only way to succeed is through a combination of creativity, discipline, and humility. But here comes another example you just cannot miss. In the chronicles of culinary disasters, few incidents compared to the infamous tortellini debacle that transpired during a particularly unforgettable episode. This moment not only shocked the judges, but also left viewers recoiling in disbelief.
Filling, what's inside the filling?
It's just a cheese. It's a packaged tortellini.
When tortellini is mentioned in the context of a culinary competition, one might expect to see meticulously handcrafted pasta, created with care by an expert chef. However, the reality in this case was far from that ideal. The chef revealed that the tortellini he presented were not homemade, but rather store-bought, filled with cheese.
Tortellini.
That's how it's sold, chef.
Tell me you use fresh tomatoes.
They were canned tomatoes.
The situation deteriorated further when the chef admitted that even the tomatoes served with the dish were not fresh. This confession was nothing short of culinary heresy, especially in a competition where freshness and quality are paramount. Had they not watched Kitchen Nightmares?
Mashed potatoes in there.
It is canned salmon caviar.
So, canned.
Did they not understand the exacting standards required to impress judges like Gordon Chef Ramsay? This ignorance and complacency seemed almost absurd, a failure to recognize the weight of the opportunity before them. Moving on, there's one contestant who the internet thinks shouldn't have made it to the final 2. It's Virginia. She had just one good service out of like 9. Some are accusing Chef Ramsay of favoritism. And Keith, may he rest in peace, even called him out directly.
I personally think that you have a hard-on for Virginia.
Here's another comment that went something like, I respect Chef Ramsay's opinions and decisions a lot. He eats pizza with a knife and fork and I'll keep my mouth shut. The favoritism towards Virginia though is a hell no. But that's what Reddit says. How about you? Do you think Chef Ramsay was biased? During the 6th dinner service, Virginia manned the fish station and had her peppered seared bluefin hamachi sashimi featured on the menu. At one point, she sent up raw scallops.
I'm not. I'm upset about it. I want to recook.
Even though Sarah offered to help, Virginia turned her down.
Yes, chef.
What'd I say, Virginia?
I'm sorry, I forgot what else you said.
Not a very wise decision, might I add, but then this happened.
Virginia, how long?
Wait, hold on. What is going on right now?
Virginia's mistakes and inconsistent timing with the sashimi slowed down the red kitchen, causing Chef Ramsay to mix up the blue team's appetizers across a few tables. Virginia then complained about her sashimi, saying it was messed up because of how the protein was moving. Ramsay was appalled by the inconsistent thickness of her slices.
Problems on the fish station and Keith's inconsistent.
Chef Ramsay sent Maribel over to help Virginia, and while it made a difference, the red team was still way behind since service had started an hour earlier. After several hours of struggling, Chef Ramsay had the blue team step in to help the red team finish service.
I mean, you could have been louder.
Oh, fuck around, Heather.
And with that, Chef Ramsay left. Virginia felt humiliated that the blue team had to come to their rescue, highlighting just how out of control things had become. During the 7th dinner service, Virginia was at the garnish station. She struggled with cooking 20 different vegetable orders at once.
Service, please.
Push back 2 minutes to the entree.
When her romaine hearts fell apart, Chef Ramsay warned her he wouldn't wait around for her lettuce.
Missy, I'm not gonna wait for some stupid lettuce.
In her last order, she panicked, putting her garnish in a pot instead of leaving it in the pan, and ended up serving garnishes overloaded with butter.
My God. Now you bring it to me with butter in there.
Yes, chef.
The carrots are there.
Yes, chef. You want them in the...
Chef Ramsay lost his temper when she mentioned making tortellini, which wasn't even on the order. He called her out harshly.
Rito, come here.
You're right, chef.
Now will you fucking shut up?
Yes, chef.
That was Chef Ramsay at his angriest. The only other time I've seen him losing his cool to this extent was with Giovanni. If you are a Hell's Kitchen fan, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, coming back to where we left off. At the end of the service, he lined up the final 5 and pointed out their lack of teamwork despite the service being completed. He told Virginia she had dug her own grave that night.
You put yourself in the shit tonight.
I know.
Well, at least she knows. But, well, in the intense environment of culinary competition, every action is magnified under the scrutiny of the cameras. Season 17 of Hell's Kitchen featured a subtle yet alarming breach of kitchen etiquette that may have gone unnoticed by Gordon Ramsay, but certainly didn't escape the vigilant eyes of the audience.
I'm doing a black cod with a cherry syrup. That on this side, you're genius, and on this side, you're crazy.
During a high-pressure moment, as the red team grappled with the chaos of Hell's Kitchen, Robin found herself at a crucial crossroads. After a series of disappointing performances, she was desperate to redeem herself. Armed with a blend of peanut butter and blueberry gastric, she was determined to impress. As time slipped away, she turned to Dan, a trusted teammate, seeking his opinion on her dish.
20 minutes remaining. Ladies, are we incorporating all 7 ingredients?
What happened next, however, raised serious concerns. In a seemingly routine move, Robin dipped a spoon into her pan and handed it to Dan for a taste test, a common practice in the kitchen for feedback. But instead of discarding the spoon after Dan tasted it, Robin inexplicably returned it to the pan, completely unaware of the potential food safety risks her action posed. This lapse in judgment might have gone unnoticed in the moment, but it carried significant implications for hygiene and the integrity of the dish.
I have like bad dry mouth, I can't. Robin always chokes during.
In any professional kitchen, such oversights are simply inexcusable. The sanctity of the cooking process demands strict adherence to hygiene standards and meticulous attention to detail. The act of double dipping, as it's often called, is a cardinal sin in the culinary world, with the potential to contaminate the entire dish.
As much as we both want to win, I don't want to give her some advice and then blame me when it doesn't taste good. So I'm going to focus on my own dish.
What made this incident particularly concerning was the casualness with which it occurred, reflecting a broader issue of complacency that had taken hold within the red team.
Cook your cod, Robin.
Well, it's still not cooked.
Show some finesse, guys, yeah? Yes, sir.
Although Gordon Ramsay didn't catch this particular transgression, the cameras did, capturing it in all its raw reality. For the viewers, it was a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance and accountability in the kitchen, even among the most skilled chefs.
Let me if I need more salt.
In the aftermath, these moments, exposed by the unforgiving lens of the camera, serve as a powerful reminder of the relentless pursuit of culinary excellence that defines the competition. Every action, no matter how small, carries weight and consequence, making vigilance and professionalism non-negotiable in the kitchen. Is a contestant who claimed to have been cooking for most of her life, but why didn't her food speak for itself? In the signature dish challenge, Polly was the third contestant to face Ramsay's judgment. She had so much confidence in her culinary skills that this is what she had to say.
If I can endure that, Hell's Kitchen's gonna be nothing for me.
I know what you are saying. Yeah, go, Polly. For her dish, Polly presented a focaccia bread accompanied by a flavorful garlic dipping oil. Sounds delicious, right? Well, unfortunately for Polly, Chef Ramsay wasn't quite as impressed as she had hoped. In fact, he was pretty brutal.
Right now, I'd rather eat poodle shit than
During the chaotic prep phase, Polly let us in on a little secret that she never went to culinary school. Instead, she relied on her keen attention to detail to absorb everything that was said, all in the name of getting the job done. Well, better luck with that on this ground. As the dinner service kicked off, Polly found herself at the appetizer station. Now, this is where the heat turned up, and unfortunately, Polly started feeling the burn right from the start. As the first few tickets came in, she was already struggling to keep up. Thank goodness for Rachel, Maribel, and the ever-helpful sous chef Marianne, who came to her rescue. But here's the thing, Polly's first attempt at a risotto was, well, a complete disaster. Overcooked, stuck to the plate, and to top it off, the mushrooms were nowhere to be found. Chef Ramsay, being the discerning chef he is, couldn't believe his eyes. He wasn't just dismayed that Polly produced such a mess even with help, but he had to ask her if she was actually happy to send that monstrosity out into the dining room. An hour and a half into the chaos, and Polly was already on her fourth attempt at her very first risotto, and this was her first ticket. Chef Ramsay was not having it, folks. Not having it. The trash bin was piling up with food that was rejected.
Food in the bin tonight that I've ever seen in 10 years.
Yeah, you heard that right, a decade. That's a whole lot of wasted ingredients and a whole lot of disappointment for our fiery chef. So what did Chef Ramsay do? Well, he decided to shake things up, Ramsay style. He made Polly swap stations with Heather, declaring Polly as the new kitchen donkey while Heather took over the appetizer station. Talk about a kitchen shake-up. By this point, Polly could feel the heat rising, and she knew that being nice and friendly wasn't cutting it anymore. Following her stint on the show, Polly went back to her roots as a caterer and even dabbled in food blogging for a while. She appeared in various magazines and interviews, and these days, she's the proud owner of her own catering company called Rolling with the Food Snob. Do they have risotto on the menu? I hope not. As Polly made her plea to stay in the competition, she mustered up all the confidence she could and said this.
I have the maturity and the depth proven over my life that I can take challenges and face them and make the best.
But there is nothing as ridiculous as what this next contestant did. And guess what's the craziest part? The fact that none of her teammates stepped in to correct her. Well, meet Sade Dancy from season 13, who had a pretty poor start in the competition. But she eventually started to step up her game. However, I'm not sure what happened to her in the 8th episode when she totally messed up who the customers were going to be. You see, Hell's Kitchen hosted a dog show, and just like for any hosted event, both teams had to go through a challenge first.
Kennel Club. Good morning.
This was Sade's first challenge on the blue team, and I'm sure she wanted to prove to her new teammates that she had what it takes. Unfortunately, instead of showing her talent, she put the exact opposite on display. In this challenge, both the teams had 45 minutes in which they had to make 2 appetizers and 3 entrees. While everybody else had a clear idea of what the customers would like, Sade somehow assumed that they were actually cooking for dogs.
Dog food. I've never done this before, but I guess it makes sense.
It was the dog show challenge after all. So she decided to make a braised beef dish for the dogs. But no matter how dumb Sade's mistake was, what really pissed me off was how Steve Rosenthal and Brian Gallagher decided to not say anything to her to stop her from making such a major mistake.
I'm really confused how dicing up this New York strip. She knows we don't have to cook for the dogs.
Now, I have no idea how they expected to win the challenge as a team when they couldn't even support each other. But honestly, that's neither here nor there. After 45 minutes, when everybody finished their dishes, Sade realized how much she had screwed up.
Realize, oh my God, these are human portions. We were cooking for dogs.
When Chef Ramsay noticed Sade's dish, he was dumbfounded. Fortunately for her, Sade was saved from secondhand embarrassment in front of the guest judges, since she got to sit out because the blue team had additional people on the team. Phew, barely got out of that one by the skin of her teeth. That's all for the most ridiculous Hell's Kitchen dishes of all time. Don't forget to share your thoughts on the crazy and disgusting moments you've witnessed on Hell's Kitchen in the comments below. Did any particular chef or incident stand out to you? Let's keep the conversation going and share our favorite moments from the show. And if you enjoyed this journey through the chaos of Hell's Kitchen, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting content. And if you want to watch something crazier, then make sure to check out this next post right here. It's even better.